Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 162 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we got another new, exciting Shudder release we're going to be talking about today, The Cleansing Hour. And, of course, we also have a great interview with director and writer Damian Leveck.
Yes, it was another just a fortunate combo of a screener we were given and the opportunity to also sit down with one of the creators of that movie, which is always a cool thing to do, especially after, when we like a film like we did with this one, where we both really enjoyed it. And this one I think you guys are going to like because it really brings something new to a genre that's kind of well-worn. I won't say tired because I still enjoy possession movies, but it is a well-trodden genre. There's a ton of possession movies out there, and I think this one really brought some new stuff to the table that I think you guys are really going to like.
Yeah, and I think what it does is when we get into more discussion about it, it shows it makes it onto a much larger scope. It modernizes it, I think, to where at a time where it seems like it fits in perfectly with the scope of the climate of the world right now.
Yeah. All right, so let's get right into it. This is our first chop. Okay, Brian, so I know you got a big first chop here with some of the stuff you've been watching for your film festival. And but before we get to that, I will say I'm behind on my horror movie challenge project, so I'm scrambling right now because we had a very, very busy weekend and I didn't get to watch any movies this weekend, so I was really scrambling. But I did get a chance to watch Suspiria today, which is the 2018 remake of the original Suspiria, and that's one I had just not gotten around to seeing for the last 2 years, which I really wanted to see, but I was also a little hesitant, as I said in my Facebook review, because I am such a huge fan of the original. And I was very kind of terrified to see what they were going to do with the remake, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's so much different from the original that it perfectly stands alone on its own. I mean, I would say it's even more different than like the Pet Sematary remake. It's really diverges enough where it can certainly stand on its own as its own movie. And it's very long. It's too long. It's pretty artistically self-indulgent in places, but it does have enough creepy scenes that I actually ended up really liking it.
No John Lithgow tobacco though.
No John Lithgow, but you have some Tilda Swinton, so we got to figure out what she smells like.
Yeah, I bet. You know what? I know there's definitely some kind of like what's that? Maybe like a lavender kind of hand cream is definitely involved in there somewhere, I think.
Some lemon verbena, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, basically she's basically every herbal tea. Like
yes, herbal tea, definitely herbal tea. Yeah,
she looks like such an herbal tea person. Like she is someone you probably like have the best time ever just sitting down with a nice cup of herbal tea, like discussing stuff. Because as far as I know, she does not get enough credit on how amazing she was in The Dead Don't Die. She is like a national treasure to begin with, but in that movie, forget it. She's like, she steals that movie. And look who's in that movie for her to steal it from.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I absolutely love her. I love her to pieces. I love anything she's in. Like I'm just captivated. And what's her name was also really good. And oh my gosh, I'm just drawing Dakota Fanning. Yeah, was incredible in it. So it's I really liked it. I mean, you definitely have to have some patience. It's very, very long, and I guess you could say slow burn. I didn't find it boring in any aspect. I thought it was over long, but that's because it was one of those movies where you kind of think it's going to end and then it just keeps going kind of thing. But I never felt that it was like slow paced or boring. But it is very, very highbrow, artistic-y. So you have to kind of enjoy those kind of films like we've talked about before on the show. But yeah, I liked it.
I still need to watch it. I own it. And what I want to do is, though, I keep meaning to put aside like time to watch both in a not maybe right in a row, but like next day. But I'm like, I can't find 2 days in a row where I can do that. Especially not this month with the horror track. I mean, I watched so many things this weekend. You have no idea. And the stuff I was planning for with this, and it's just like, so I'm like, I said, all right, that'll be probably pushed off again to like November or something. November seems to be the time you can catch up a little bit on horror. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because you have like the month of October, but with our challenge, we make it difficult. But
oh, well, speaking of which, our next dismemberment, you guys will be happy to know, is a much more reasonable 24 titles in November so far. So I think we're going to have like one of those 2-hour epic dismemberments for November.
I mean, I know people like them, but like it gets exhausting for Tim and I.
Yeah.
Just because by the end of it, we're draining. We're like forgetting film historians and everything. But but yeah, in the middle of it, I managed to get a couple. I managed to catch up on my. I think now I'm a day behind, but I'm actually going to try and watch something after we record. So hopefully I'll catch back up again for my horror challenge. But and I even got to watch one of my Amityville projects, and this is the one I told you I was really excited for, and that was Amityville Dollhouse. And this one started off, I'd say the first half hour into it, I was like, oh my God, this could literally be one of the best Amityville, like out of the, not counting the original.
Wow.
But then it kind of went in a way where it's just like, they tried to do too much. And they should have just stuck with they kind of kept, I guess, the one consistency. So basically this girl, the daughter gets a dollhouse, which is an exact replica of the Amityville house, including like it lights up and it does everything, and I'm like, holy cow, this would be the coolest thing to own.
Oh yeah, really?
I am a grown adult male, and I want a dollhouse as long as it's this Amityville one. It was amazing. The size and scope of this thing is incredible. But so basically, what happens is like they use the device really well. So it's haunted, the house. If people move into people move their hands in certain spots in the house, it'll either like recreate things in like real time in the house that they're in, which is not an Amityville house. It's some random like house in the middle of a desert somewhere. But besides that, so it's got unique, like the one sequence, there's like a little, like one of the brothers has like a little mouse, and the mouse runs into the house, goes through the fireplace, and then it becomes like a giant sized mouse that like literally like shoving under the girl's bed and like lifts it up like 4 feet off the ground.
Oh my God.
Like that. So I was like, but that's cool. I like that. Look, the parallels there and everything, and it's neat and it's kind of cool. And it had the mean principal from summer school, and it, that guy Robin, whatever Thomas, I think his name. He was always funny. So it's like it's got it's got a cool thing going, and then it like throws in like this like undead like father from the brother, because it's a mixed family where like the mom comes in with one son, and the stepfather has a son and a daughter. So it's like one of those families. So it's like, but I guess the kid's original father comes back in like this decaying zombie form kind of a thing, and it's like it just gets kind of like they put too much into it. They should have just stuck strictly with this the Amityville dollhouse versus the real house that they're living in, and it would have been just fine. But I think, and then they got like all this kind of weird, like the uncle and aunt just happened to have like some kind of like crystal those shops where it's like all mystical and stuff, like they know what's going on. Yeah, so it's just like one of those things. But there's a couple, like I said, there's a really couple of great sequences towards the beginning of this, and then it just kind of plops down at the end. But overall, I will give it I will say it was enjoyable, at least very enjoyable. And Again, of course, there's that weird Amityville like people that probably shouldn't be kind of like sexually attractive to each other thing going on in there.
What is their obsession with that? I don't know.
I really don't know where that it was connected to this whole story, but like, because like the mother like starts like literally fantasizing about her stepson while having sex with her current husband. Weird stuff going on, but yeah. So but yeah, that's Amityville Dollhouse. Now I forgot what is next on my list. I gotta look, but that completes my my box set that I had of the Haunted Object series. So that's kind of cool. So I did hit a milestone there, an Amityville milestone. And I tell you, I think it's not soon from this point where I start getting to the really bizarre ones. I think there's like 4 or 5 that are kind of like just Midland, but then it gets to the weird ones like Amityville Island, which combines Jaws because it's Amity. So I guess they got whoever created that got confused. I don't know. And then there's the ever odd Amityville Vibrator, which is somewhere down to the end of this.
That one's got to be that's got to be the last one for sure.
I think it's not though. I think there was one after that, but I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, God knows what's next with these things. The Amityville. Somehow I know there's going to be like the Amityville COVID is going to come out at some point. I really. But anyway, yeah. So that's that. I'll save the Nightstream review till the end of the first chop.
Okay.
But next thing we want to go to is one of our listeners, actually. Victoria is her name. She has a really cool site called Embroidery. I don't know if you got a chance to check this out, Tim, but she makes really good embroidery things. Her summary on the site says, from her home in Southeast England, Victoria creates unique designs entirely by hand. This is not your grandma's embroidery. And that's all in caps because they want to really express this because it's basically fusing her love of art, movies, and horror. She creates one-of-a-kind items for grown-ups and big kids to laugh at, love, and talk about. And she has a really cool one of the nun.
Oh yeah, that one's amazing.
Yeah, I mean that it's so incredible. You got to check that out. You can go to her. We'll put this in the show notes, but it's www.embroidery. That's EMBRUDERY.co.uk. So yeah, I mean, you know what? And we'll probably put this again on our holiday gift guide this year. So there's something you may want to think about, especially because you want to really help. My goal is to try and, as much as possible, when I do my holiday shopping this year, is try and get more of the smaller businesses, like not on Amazon kind of shopping. Even though Amazon's kind of easy when your relative's out of town, you can just so easy to just ship something. But I'm gonna try my best this year to shop, like not necessarily just local, but just smaller shops, independent shops, like the Ghost Girl Greetings, people like that are really probably hit hard at some level by the pandemic. I want to try and support those for the holiday gifts. But yeah, check it out. And I know Victoria, she's actually been playing along in our horror challenge. So yeah, let's definitely check her shop out. I think she's got some amazing stuff there.
All right.
So I don't know, Tim, did you listen to Jed Shepard, who we had on the show with Haley Bishop? He restarted his podcast now called Jed Talks. So he talks about horror movies, and it's funny. His first episode back also has Damian Leveck on it, and they talk about the cleansing hour. So see, we're right in sync with Jed.
Yeah. No, I didn't get a chance to listen to it yet because like I said, crazy weekends. I didn't even get a chance to catch up on my podcast, but I've definitely got it in the list to check out this week.
It's a great podcast, and which I think this why Jed is so popular too online is because he's such a big horror fan first. He writes great horror stuff, and he's got a ton of projects in the works, but deep down, first and foremost, you can tell he is such a fan of horror movies. He's always discussing people on Twitter. Like, I don't know if he ever sleeps, in all honesty, but because I see him on Twitter at all hours of the day. But yeah, he's great to talk to, and I've sent him some DMs back and forth, and we'll talk on Twitter. But so check out his podcast, of course, too, because like I said, we have no problem promoting other horror podcasts because we love to, just the community itself is just so inviting and always so helpful of each other that we will always make sure to share any kind of other horror projects with our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. And this next one, Brian, I really want to hear about, which was your Hunt a Killer box themed around the Blair Witch.
Yeah, so we didn't play it yet, but I wanted to briefly touch on it. I did get my box, and it's funny because as soon as I signed up for it and it went shipped, it said shipped, they started you even get emails. Like I got an email from supposedly the woman who's, you basically have to solve her son is missing. So she already sent us an email supposedly like, hey, thank you for checking into my case and everything. And
oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, and then then she sent me another email saying, hey, you may want to check out this podcast. And so I clicked on the link just to really quickly, and it's like a 45-second clip of someone's podcast, in quotes, about probably the Blair Witch. So the set I looked at basically just has a bunch of little artifacts and magazine things in it. And since I ordered early, I got actually a Burkittsville travel coffee mug.
Oh,
and
cool.
It came with it. And then they also have a cool a little journal that it was someone else's journal, but it's only written on the first couple of pages. I think you're supposed to technically use it to help solve the crimes. And so supposedly it's a 6-part series. So, and I think it's this is the first part, and you get I think it ends up being $30 a month. But when you think about it, for that, if Julie and I can't go to the movies anymore, and that's about $30 every time we go to the movies, this is basically like a fun 1 hour, like a date night basically you have with these things. So I'm really anxious to try it. We'll probably do it this weekend. We'll have a little more time this weekend. So I'll give a full review without obviously giving spoilers if anyone else should try and do this. But I'll give you I'll try and give you the best kind of experience for it. But it seems like something really fun. And I think it's something like Tim, I was telling you, like it seems like even the regular ones you could do as a family, because they say like a whole family can do it. I don't think it's ever to the point of where it's so like adult themed.
Right.
That and plus your kids love horror anyway, so and they're so smart, they'll probably nothing's gonna go over their head anyway, so they'll probably just enjoy it, and it's like a good family night. I mean, it's for $30 a month, really, it's essentially having like a escape room / game night / movie night out at the cost of it. So
yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah. So I also Julie and I started, because it's so funny. When I wanted to rewatch Hill House, I watched it and Julie got caught up in it, so she watched that. So we started watching Bly Manor, and we're almost through. I think we have 3 episodes left, which is another. I tell you, Mike Flanagan, man, he knows how to do like a great haunted story, like paced. Like he's got like this nice deliberate pacing to these. It's same style of Hill House, where it's like, you kind of get this mystery and it unfolds, and very like sometimes episodes will feature a certain character and their backstory, and it's just the cast again is amazing. I mean, it's got like Henry Thomas with his British accent. Like you'll want to be there for that. He's because he's like, Henry Thomas is awesome. It's got Victoria Pedretti. It's one of the main characters in it. Oliver Jackson Cohen is in it. Did I say his name right? Is Cohen? Oliver Jackson Cohen, right?
Not sure. I
did
haven't
say
heard
his name. But yeah, and so he's in it. Carla Gugino's in it. So it's basically almost everybody from Hill House is in it at some point. I know Kate Siegel is supposedly supposed to show up at some point, because I saw her in the credits, but I don't know where she's going to be. Oh yeah, I did say it right. It's Cohen. I should have said Cohen and not Cone, so he's not related to Steve Cohen. But yeah, so that's so Hill House again. Oh my God. I mean, Bly Manor is another one.
I've seen that there's like ghosts hidden all throughout in the background of the show.
I know, that's the thing. It's like, you're always catching something in there. There's some that are way more obvious than others, but it was similar to Hill House in that way, where there's some like hidden that you don't see, and some are right in your face. And I tell you, I think there was one of them in Hill House. I remember that, like, when they were in the car and it went screaming between them.
Oh yeah,
was probably the most I ever jumped at anything in like years. I did not see that coming. I'll tell you, these show, I hope they come out with one every year. The Mike Flanagan just keeps coming out with these things every year, and I want the same cast in it somewhere, because they're all amazing. But so I can't wait to finish this. I'll probably finish this by next episode. I'll be able to do a non-spoiler review, because I don't want to spoil it for Tim. But I will say though, the daughter in it is it seems like a British version of your daughter.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I gotta see
that. so when she says things, and it's like the typical like British kids, they're like, "Oh, that's pleasantly delightful." Like just the British kids are so like funny. They're so
it's amazing how good their accents are too when they're British.
I know
they can do exceptional British accents. That's like when I went to Germany and all the toddlers spoke German. They were very intelligent.
It's amazing. I don't know how they do it.
All right, so
I'll finish this off with sorry, I know it's like all me tonight. I'm sure you guys are like, oh God, can't you put the one with dulcet tones on? But Tim did have a busy weekend, so I ended up signing up though, and we got some press credentials for some of the Nightstream Film Festival, which is all virtual, and basically it was a bunch of film festivals mixed into one. So, but for the tickets, I bought a 5-pack of tickets basically, because they're all trying to raise money for this festival. Everyone is impacted by COVID, so I want to make sure. I'm like, you know what? Absolutely, I'm gonna buy like at least a 5-pack. They gave us a discount, which was nice, but I was going to do it anyway, so it's kind of great. But what I decided to do is, because there were way too many movies I wanted to see, some of them were actually set, so it was done differently. Some of them were set to a time, and you had to kind of watch it. You had like an hour from that point to watch it, and then that was it. And then some were on demand. So I literally went through for like hours one day trying to figure this out, and I'm like, you know what? some of these things I'm just not going to be there at the right time. Like one I had to start watching at like 2 a.m. I'm like, there's
Oh
no
my
way I
gosh,
could do
yeah.
this. Yeah, I just can't do it. Or like 12 at night. It was just really, I'm like, all right, forget it. So I decided to get the bang for my buck. And you know how I love my horror shorts, right?
Yeah.
So what I did is I got 3 feature movies that were able to be watched. One was a premiere, was Run, and I'll get to that first. And that was a specific time. That was Thursday night, and you had to start it by like 9:15 or by 10:15, and you had like 3 hours to finish it, kind of deal. And then I did 2 other features and then 2 shorts. So I figured I'd try and get my bang for my buck. So the shorts ended up being like 12 films out of that, I believe. So, or a little more actually, but I'll go through them quickly. Obviously, don't want to spoil some of these because they're going to be feature-length films. The first one was Run. It's directed by Anish Chaganty, and it's basically the summary is a homeschooled teenager begins to suspect her mother is keeping a dark secret from her. And this one, you've seen this kind of style before, where there's like been a victim is kind of captive for some reason, or they think they feel captive and you're not sure what's going on. That's kind of like what this was about. But yet this one, what stood out, I think, was the performances were so incredible. It was Sarah Paulson, who's pretty much amazing in everything she does.
Yes.
And she starred with a young actress named Kira Allen, and they were absolutely incredible. So it's like, while the plot may have been something you're familiar with, I think the performances are so good it doesn't matter. You know when you get that when you've seen a movie a million times, the plot to it, but yet it's so done in such a way that it's so unique or so well that it doesn't matter. This is one of those occasions. So I think this is coming to Hulu in November.
Oh,
so
cool.
Yeah, so definitely I would check this out if you like those kind of, a lot of tension throughout this movie. So it's really good. It's like real, and it moves at a quick pace for a movie that you wouldn't think would move at a quick pace, but it does. It's only an hour and a half, I think, anyway. But yeah, so that was what I watched opening night, which was really good. Next one I watched, Tim, this is a movie that you need to see. 100%.
Okay.
You need to see this movie, and that's called Frank and Zed. It's directed by Jesse Blanchard, and I'll give you the summary first. 2 reanimated corpses, dependent on each other for survival, live a life of solitude until a power-hungry magistrate tricks a group of villagers into attacking their lonely castle, fulfilling an ancient prophecy, the orgy of blood.
Oh wow!
Sounds cool, right?
I don't even know what to think about that. Yeah, it does sound cool.
Okay, here's the catch: all puppets.
Oh.
So, and it is the most gory puppet movie I've ever seen in my life. I've seen a bunch of puppet movies, there's Meet the Feebles, you've seen that, and
yeah.
There was that other one what was that other one we saw? Remember, it was Head, I think it was called, with the
I remember
gory,
that one.
Well, this thing, the production value on this has such amazing set pieces that it just blows you away, and it's so fun, and it's like they don't like it's one of the gore is nonstop basically, and it's just so great because it's like Frank is basically this like Frankenstein monster, that kind of thing, and Zed is like this decayed corpse and stuff. He's got like a hole in his skull that has like a brain go. So it's like really just the puppetry in this is amazing, and it's just funny because like Frankenstein, he basically like he runs out of fuel, so he basically has to sit there in like this chair, and Zed, who's like can barely move and his body parts keep falling, to like tap this thing so the lightning bolt hits Frank to recharge him.
Oh my
so it's
gosh.
just, that's what they mean by like they need each other, and it's just really cool. And this thing took 6 years to make, because there was a Q&A at the end of it and they were talking about it, and so it's just like it is just so visually stunning. You have to see it, and just that plot point, Tim, is like a you type of thing. It's like that classic-y, monster-y, medieval style.
Oh yeah,
so,
I love that stuff.
Yeah, so you need to watch that when it comes out. I don't know when that's going to come, where it's going to be released publicly or where it's going to be, but yeah, this is one you definitely need to see. The next one I'll only talk to briefly. This one is not really horror, but I thought since it was a horror film festival, it would have more of a horror take on it. And I mean, it does in the sense that it's actual horror for the main character. And it's called The Obituary of Tunde Johnson, and it's basically a wealthy Nigerian-American teen is pulled over by police, shot to death, and immediately awakens, reliving the same day over and over, trapped in a terrifying time loop, forced to confront difficult truth about his life and himself. And, so I'm thinking that, I'm like, okay, so it sounds like a more horrific, serious, happy death day. really wasn't that. It was definitely more of a statement because, of course, he's, obviously, I mean, the police shooting, people that shouldn't be, that's all current now, even though it's been around forever. But obviously, it's now more in the limelight than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So it was a very important thing, and it's also the same day. What they didn't mention in the summary is it's also the same day he comes out to his family. And so there's a lot, like he's dealing with a lot of stuff that day, and every day he keeps switching around to try and change different things about his life, but it always ends in this horrific thing.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it's really good. The performances are fantastic. It's not many people I recognize, and I don't think I recognized anybody in the movie per se, but it's definitely was a very important thing. And it happened to be just the day I happened to watch it was on National Coming Out Day. So I thought it's definitely, while it's not horror, I wanted to mention it because it's a very important film to watch, I think, and it's really, really well done. So, and the director had a little Q&A after too, and he kind of went into the some of the reasons why he wanted to make it. So that was really good. Now we'll get into the shorts. So the first series I watched was called Nightmare Fuel Shorts. And that's basically experience horror at its most punishing in this unforgiving collection of pint-sized creep shows featuring evil playthings, domestic disturbances, and the giallo-influenced supernatural. So the first one I watched was Selfie. It's directed by John Poliquin, and it's basically an insecure teenager deletes her social media accounts and learns that what she puts online will come back to haunt her. And this one is pretty creepy and had some pretty insane gore towards the end of it there. It was pretty short too, but I mean, they were all short, but some were like 6 minutes, some were up to 20 as a short goes. But yeah, this one was really cool. I mean, it's very obvious the message they're trying to get across. It's like that whole thing. It's basically she's tired of her online persona, but it won't let her go. So you kind of see where I'm getting at with that. The next one was my favorite. Out of everything I watched, this short was my favorite. It was called Mr. This for That. It was directed by Thomas Mendolia, and I'm hoping they make this into a feature because this would be insane as a feature. But it says the titular monster is just waiting for they wrote it. It's just waiting for feature length expansion. A demon that grants wishes to a little girl dealing with hate-filled parents, but at a cost. And so basically, she like opens her closet one night, and it's like she sees this little guy in the back there, and he's like, he's just the coolest thing where he's like, hello, and he does this, and it speaks in rhyme. It'd be like, oh, you think this would be nice? Well, remember, everything comes at a price. So it's just like, this thing, I just freaking loved every second of this thing. And it's, like the first night, like I guess she wishes for a video game. So she gets, like, the video game comes out, and then next thing you know, this thing reaches out and grabs her fish and yanks it out of the fish bowl. And the next day she wakes up, and the fish tank is completely gone. It's like it never happened. It got erased from theory. So as you can tell, it goes on. You could just imagine where it goes from there. As basically the whole thing is what you'll wish for something, you'll get it, but you will pay a price for it. So it's very Twilight Zone-esque.
And Monkey Paw-esque.
And Monkey Paw, yeah. So, but it was like, I'm telling you, this one was by far my favorite thing I've seen out of all the shorts. It was so cool, and I'd be all there for a feature length of this, because whoever played Mr. This for That is pretty cool. Next one was 4x6, and that was by Jamie Gingell, I'm sorry, and it's powered by heavy giallo visual cues. This pint-sized gem follows a collage artist who discovers a truly killer photo. I mean, this one was cool. I think I wanted a little more to it, though. I mean, I think I got it, kind of a thing, but it's one of those ones where I think it might have needed a few more minutes to kind of really build on it. I think it was a little too quick to really get to what it was trying to, but it was still pretty solid. Like, I didn't see a bad one. There was no bad ones in this series. Next one is Woodland Cemetery, and that one is Niels Bourgeonnet. I probably butchered this poor guy's name, but it's so while snapping pics inside a cemetery, a photographer interrupts an older woman who's placing a lantern next to a grave. It's a terrible mistake. So this was one of those really cool, I hate to say standard type of ghost stories, and that's not a knock. It was super well done. It was really creepy, like this this, it's got that classic like old woman that like, kind of like turns and looks at her and catches her, and then she feels like she's being haunted the whole time. It's just one of those really cool ones. It was done really well. Sorry if I'm going through too fast. I just know we have a lot to cover, and I want to kind of just give you a taste of what I watched. I don't want to give everything away. Next one is The Girl in the Woods. That was by Laura Kulik. And after a car accident on an isolated woodland road, a woman must deal with more than just car trouble. So this one was kind of like that, it's a cool take on the, that old standard trope of driving down the dark road and you may have hit somebody kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But it was still well done. It was pretty cool. It was like they used I found out because she did a Q&A after too. I found out, I guess she used a road in Santa Cruz, California, which I've driven near many a time. So I know it's dark and it's hard to navigate there. So it was a good choice to use that. Next one was I was like, it's funny, as soon as I was done with it, I said, wow, this is really good. And it turns out it was done by Rebecca McKendry, who does not do anything bad. Everything she does is amazing. So this one is marital discord can feel like a horrible sickness. For this strained couple, it's more like a physical disease. And this one was great. I guess she co-wrote it with her husband, and I saw the Q&A on her too, and she basically said it's kind of like they've been married and have so much together so long that if they were ever to divorce, it would almost be like, they'd be like this. They'd be like pieces of them would be coming off, and that's a little hint of what kind of goes on in this one.
Yeah.
So basically just a couple is getting a divorce and they does not fare well. But she's just fantastic, Rebecca McKendry. I mean, she's such one of the best people in the horror industry, just in general. Next one is Attachment. It's funny, it went Separation, and then this one's Attachment. This one's by Kazia Babich. And it says a man moves in with his new younger girlfriend, but there's a catch. He's just left his wife for her, and sometimes bad karma manifests itself in nightmarish ways. So this one was kind of a weird one. I see where they were getting, but I don't think it got to where it meant to be. I felt like there should have been more. Like it should have doubled down on what it was going for. Like it just wasn't enough oomph to it, if you know what I mean. Like the payoff at the end wasn't as like shocking as some of the other ones in this.
Yeah.
The next, then there's one called Killing of Small Animals. It's by Marcus Svanberg. It says a woman floating through life without much purpose kills a butterfly. She loves the feeling. So basically what this movie ends up being, the short, it's like almost like the birth of a serial killer. I mean, and it's by far the most disturbing one. I mean, like, you end up with like a gerbil in a blender and a cat in the microwave, kind of disturbing. Gosh. Yeah. So basically she becomes, and then the last shot, which I won't mention, kind of teases to where she's going to be heading with this. And it's pretty bad. So, not the movie, her life choice is pretty bad. It was a really good one. And this one, actually, this might be my second favorite. This last one here is called, in this series is the Abracitos, which I think translates to hugs. But this was by Tony Morales, and it says a sudden phone call in the middle of the night terrifies two sisters, but not as much as what may be in the room with them. And this one was so well crafted, and the pacing was I basically jotted down as near perfection, because it just kept delivering this tension. And there's a couple of Tim jump scares in there, but at times when you don't expect it. Which is a good jump scare, but in a main, it's like where you expect them to be, there's nothing, and then all of a sudden when you're not expecting anything, it's something. So it's just really well done, and just it's like two girls are basically the stars of this thing, and they do such a good job, and it is super creepy. I think you would really like this one, Tim.
Or not.
Or not.
You jump scares.
No, I think it would in the end. Then the next, then I watched a series called Head Trip Shorts. This one's overall, this wasn't as cool as the first batch, but this one is the summary of it. It's nothing as it seems in the crop of unconventional genre-stretching shorts, which challenge common perceptions of what horror can be through homicidal awakenings, coming-of-age oddities, and cannibalistic romance, and more. So the first one was called Weirdo. That was by Ashley Wessel, and the summary is an awkward young boy is confronted by a bully. The outcome is, to put it lightly, brutal. So this one's a little bizarre. I mean, I guess the whole point of this one is like this bully is the bully keeps teasing this one kid and calling him a weirdo. It turns out he's not wrong. This kid's definitely a bizarro, what he does. So I don't know I assume that's the message of this. I mean, not that the bully's is like a good guy or anything, but it's pretty thing. But again, I feel like this one could have been extended a few more minutes to really get more of it. But still good. The next one is Nova. This one I think you would like it, Tim, because it's one of those ones where it's done in real time. So there's a lot of pressure of real time. So it's Dr. Nova Thorpe only has a few frantic minutes left to warn the world about something deadly, a dizzying exercise in real-time tension. So it's kind of the sci-fi horror. It was kind of like that one we saw in the other film short festival that time, where it was like a futuristic kind of deal, and the end of the world is coming kind of thing.
Yeah.
So but this one was really cool the way they did it. Next one is Gutter Witch. It's by Harry Baker, and it's selling her spells and hexes to her lower-class neighborhood's criminals. Libby uses her witchcraft as a means to an end. A visit from an old face complicates her hustle. This one was pretty good. It was on the gritty side, but the performances were really good in it. But, it's kind of like, it was one of those ones where it's like it's horror, but it's like, it's weird that it was in this group with the other ones. But it was still really good. It seemed like it was, not as horror as the other ones, even though it was about a witch. I guess it makes more sense if you watch the whole series of things. Yeah. Probably not doing it justice explain that. Next one was a horror comedy in there. It was called Boy Eats Girl, a zombie love story. This is by Sarah Gerfield. It says, your classic romantic comedy meet cute setup. Undead boy meets undead girl while they're feasting on a corpse innards. Sparks fly, magic happens. This one has zombie sex in it too, by the way.
Ooh, so,
okay. Yeah, zombie sex, zombie gore, zombie everything in there. But it was actually pretty funny. It was cute. But I mean, it's kind of like remember that one? What was it? Warm Bodies. Like kind of like a little short version of that. But still a fun one. This was my favorite, I think, out of this batch, though, and this was Audio Guide. This was Chris Elena, and it's inside an art gallery. A woman wearing a gallery-issued headphones unexpectedly learns about life mysteries, whether she wants to or not. So it's basically anytime she aims this little device, it basically the museum guide comes on and talks about the person. They'll be like, "This is Bob. He's 23-year-old and works over here, and he doesn't know that he's going to die in 2 days." And it's like, so she keeps hearing all this about everybody in there. Very Twilight Zone-esque too.
Yeah,
the
that
way
sounds like
does
it.
that. Yeah, because she eventually wants to kind of hear about herself, but it's starting to freak her out because she's knowing too many things, and it's like, kind of her tension on whether or not she should listen to point it at herself to find out about it. So that one was really, really cool, I thought. Then that was definitely my favorite of the batch. Next was the second favorite was this next one, which was called Coil. And that's by Spencer Ryerson. Every time I hear that name, I want to go, Ned Ryerson? But it's Spencer Ryerson. Social anxiety awakens something terrifying inside of an anxiety-ridden woman as she preps for a night out. This one was really cool and had a lot of great gore in it. And it's one of those ones where it was really one actress doing the whole thing, carrying the whole load. And she just did a great job, because how many times you've been there, where you have an event basically, and, you kind of, you're not sure if you want to go because you don't know if you're going to know anybody, but you feel like you still have to go and you have to make something for it. And then there's this and everything. The pressure just mounts and mounts and mounts. It's
like literally everything I plan.
There you go. Yeah. So you'd probably relate to this one. Yeah. So basically it picture that, but then they transform that. They deflect that into like a horror, project that into like a big horror scenario, which is really well done, I thought. The final one that they did is it's called Landgraves by Jean-Francois Leblanc. And it's a music journalist accepts an exciting assignment. He must go into the woods to interview a heavy metal duo coming off of murder charges. What could go wrong? So this one was had super high production value, like the value of almost like a feature film. It was so well done. It was pretty good. I mean, I think it was kind of on the little predictable side, but I don't think it was supposed to be mysterious in any way, so it's probably not that big of a thing. I think it was just supposed to bring the tension that it did, and I think it did a good job on that one. So it kind of has a cool little twist ending to it. But that was what I watched at Nightstream Festival. I wish I would have got more.
Yeah, it sounds like that was worth it though. That's a lot of films to watch.
Oh yeah, no, I mean for the value I paid for it, it was great. But like, and I had a lot of stuff I could. There was like I could have attended the dinner with Mick Garris where you watch virtual, and he like I guess it's just watching him eat. But no, but it had like a bunch of horror. It had horror people on there, and there was a lot of other stuff. I think I may still go. They still have replays of it, so I still may be able to access some of it for a few days. But yeah, it was cool because they had a lot of virtual Q&As, and there was a lot of movies there. There was so many I wanted to see that I just with timing and stuff like that I couldn't get to, but I kind of have them like earmarked for like future watching if I see them anywhere when they released. So because I watched a lot of trailers at least through there. So yeah, nice. So sorry to go ramble there for 20 minutes, but figured it was important to go over some of these.
Yeah, it sounds really, really cool. All right, so now we get to our main feature, The Cleansing Hour from 2020, directed by Damien Leveck, starring Ryan Guzman as Max, Kyle Gallner as Drew, Alex Angelis as Lane, Chris Lukumhoy as Chris, Daniel Hoffman-Gill as Tommy, Emma Holzer as Riley, Joanna David as Schoolmarm. Another successful exorcism, quote-unquote, streamed online, or so it seems. Can the quote-unquote exorcist producer and their team bring the ratings up? Ratings skyrocket when a real demon gets involved. And this one was a lot of fun. If you guys are burned out on exorcism and possession movies, I would highly recommend you give this one a shot because it takes a couple of things that I really love, which are those kind of ghost hunting type shows and paranormal shows. Me and Brian talk about all the time on the show that we absolutely love. And then it also kind of brings in the whole online aspect of kind of the world we're living in right now with quarantine and kind of melds them into a possession movie. And I just thought it was a really, really cool premise, and I was on board with it the minute I saw the description of it. And I actually really, really like this one. It's definitely one of those that ramps up. Like it's one of those. Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah,
one of those type
totally
of movies.
Got that one.
So yeah, if you like you're not gonna. This is not one of our Brian and I's famous slow burn movies we talk about. This is definitely not one of those.
No, this thing, yeah, it's like it picks up pretty quickly. Yeah, this one, and what's cool is I think this one is it builds and it builds and it doesn't like it keeps going and going and going, and then you would think sometimes, well, when movies do that, the ending really has to be something or it's a disappointment, and they succeeded with giving you a really cool like jaw drop ending kind of thing without trying to. I'm not going to say what it is, of course. You'll need to see that yourself. Mm-hmm. But and there's teases. It's funny, when I rewatched it, I started to notice there is some teases to what's going to go on through a couple of lines, and I don't know if you definitely, even if you catch it, I don't know if you know what they're talking about per se. I did know, so I kind of caught it, but yeah, but I think what also is important, I think, to address, and we talk about this in the interview too with Damien. The cast, if they weren't good, this thing becomes a whole nother movie. Mm-hmm. Because the premise of it, these exorcist show is like hokey in general, but when you have actors that really pull it off and buy in, well, then you've elevated this movie to really where it needs to be successful, and it does that. Especially we and again, we talk about this in the interview coming up, but Alex Angelis as Lane, she will blow you away in this role. I mean, she is so good because she plays this, basically she ending up having to play the girl that's being exorcised through some unfortunate situations, and that's when the real demon that shows up basically takes over her, and so she's got to go from this nice sweet girl next door type to like full on demon, and she has got some creepy sequences as the demon when she's under the thing, and just like she's just, I think like she does a lot of stuff with her eyes that like really kind of like are creepy, and just I think she like is such an important part to make this movie so enjoyable. Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, if you like any of those type of reality type supernatural stuff, and the great thing about it is the film relies on the premise that these shows are always a little bit of smoke and mirrors and theater. and really it runs with that premise throughout. So it doesn't take itself too seriously starting out, which is a great contrast for all the horror and stuff that's to follow. It's not a horror comedy, but the premise alone of these people that are kind of, exaggerating and staging these exorcisms and getting famous off of it, so that when it flips and turns real, it's just I just love that contrast between kind of the hokey fakery of the webcast that they're running, contrasted with what really starts to pick up and happen in the second half of the movie. So I think you guys will like that part of it.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely another one of those where we lucked out getting another screener that we both loved. And it's funny, and I said this too, is that, when I started to watch this, the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, is this going to be one of these things with the show gone wrong? But while that happens, it's at a scale that I was not prepared for, and so I was pleasantly surprised and ended up really, really loving this film. And this is like, even the second time I watched it again, I liked it even better. So this is definitely one. And I tell you, Shudder, whoever curates at Shudder is just like a genius. I mean, they are grabbing some stuff that you would never probably come across. I don't think you'd come across this without Shudder, because you'd probably pass it off as just, you'd see it like in a like on whatever, in a list of horror films. But since Shudder knows to showcase these movies, they know what horror fans would want to see. We get to see this now, and that's so good that Shudder exists for that reason.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, because if you even just reading the description, you kind of think where this one's going, and if you passed on it just because of that blurb, you'd be really doing yourself a disservice. Because I was kind of in the same boat. I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't dismissive of it, but when I first saw what it was about, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of figure out where this is going, and I was really pleasantly surprised that it did some very unexpected things and went to some places I didn't predict at all. So, and you make another good point about Shudder. Whoever does their curation has to be a really big horror fan, or horror fans. I'm sure there's more than one person, but because these films tend to have little aspects of them that I think a mainstream audience may not catch on to, that doesn't watch a lot of horror. They have to know what like diehard horror fans like, the way they curate some of these, because they're not necessarily films that would play the same with a mainstream non-horror audience, if you know what I mean. But they know that horror fans would really, really like them. So yeah, that's a good point.
So definitely check this one out on Shudder. I mean, we know most of our listeners, if not all of them, have got to have Shudder now. So it's a no-brainer really to just check this one out, especially because it does. I'm sure you can find something that clicks our horror challenge. Well, I guess that if you don't have a Shudder original one,
yeah, there you go, right there.
You got this one right there. But I'm sure there's some other things you can probably find in there.
All right, well, let's get to our interview with Damian, because this was a fantastic interview. He was a really nice guy to sit down and talk to. And we'll kick it off right here.
In this last year, we've learned that everything can be done online these days. Remote learning, telemedicine, exorcisms. Yes, exorcisms. In the new Shudder original, The Cleansing Hour, we see that tempting fate with an online exorcism may not be the best idea. And here to discuss the film is writer-director Damien Leveck. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. So, Damien, we watched the movie and really enjoyed it. It was a really cool take on the whole exorcism genre. But before we get into the movie, I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and some previous projects you've worked on.
Sure. I've been, I guess, working in entertainment for the better part of 15 years. I got into it as an editor. I still work professionally as an editor. I cut my teeth in documentaries. The first documentary that I did was with Ethan Hawke, and I actually got to produce that, so that was a real treat. And then I segued from that into, I cut a narrative feature film, and then really got into unscripted TV. I swore to myself I wasn't going to do unscripted TV, and then that's where all the work for editors is, and it turns out it pays better anyway than scripted editing. So I have been doing that for probably about 10 years now, and have worked on a lot of network shows. I still will step in on a network show from time to time, but I found a niche for myself as a development editor. So I cut development sizzles for movies that people are pitching, documentaries, reality shows of different kinds. And basically the reason why this is specialized is because people will go out and hand me a hard drive full of footage, and I have to turn it into something, in a reasonable amount of time and make it good and make it attractive. And for those who don't know what a sizzle is, it's basically an extended trailer. You're taking this footage and you're cutting it in a sexy way into a trailer that's between 5 and 10 minutes long that pitches the characters, the concept, the conflict, and the overall concept. Wow, is that 4 C's? That was pretty cool. I didn't even mean to do that. Yeah, so that's my niche, and I started a company that sort of splits off from that, and also does a lot of like rich media marketing content for luxury brands. So that is how we pay the bills over here in my world, and also making independent films and trying to focus on like horror content mostly. So that is sort of how I rose up in that. During all the time during editing, of course I was writing, and I was making short films and developing my craft to the point where I felt comfortable enough to go to the effort to make a feature film. I was always like, I don't want to spend all this time trying to get a feature film off the ground if I wasn't confident in the material. And then when I wrote the Cleansing Hour, I felt like, okay, this is something that we can definitely do. Like it's time to move forward and make this movie. And here we are.
Super cool.
Yeah, and that's funny because my next question actually is kind of about the editing transformation. So, with all those editing credits, like how do you feel it adds to when you now direct something? Because knowing how sometimes you'll have so much content to edit down. How did that affect you when you actually do a directing project now?
It was really, really helpful. I feel very fortunate to have that skill set because I've having worked in a lot of network stuff. You're editing other people's footage, and especially in unscripted, it's shot, verite style. It's not, a lot of times things are shot run and gun. They miss a lot of shots that you would need, cutaways and this sort of thing. So, having worked this long as an editor, I always have a sense whenever I step on set for like the shots that I'm going to need in order to cut this together. So I'm always editing ahead of time in my mind. And that way I know that whenever I get on set, I'm going to shoot exactly what I'm going to use. And if I have time to, get creative, more creative and shoot other things, I certainly will. But it's made me a more efficient editor. And I think it's also made me a more efficient director, and a more, I think, intentional director in terms of what I'm doing. And I have to also sort of check that sometimes too, because having come from that world, I'm keenly familiar with like the run and gun style. I've field produced and direct, which is the term they use in unscripted for basically directing whenever you are shooting unscripted TV. And, sometimes I have to sort of step outside of my sort of technical mind and allow the more creative side to take over. But Cleansing Hour was particularly, complex because I was also producing the movie. So I was, my producer side was sort of keeping the director creative side in check the entire time. And that is very much a Jekyll and Hyde relationship. And they aren't always compatible. But, all this to say that, my experience as an editor and working in unscripted is a net benefit to everything that I'm doing, directing and writing.
That's cool. So do you have you had like little Damians on each shoulder when you were doing it? Like one telling you, no, we are in this shot. And the other one was like, but I need it.
Yeah, basically that is what it is. And like, there were a few times, when my other producers, one of whom is my wife, steps in and says like, hey, we've got 20 minutes to pull this off. You might want to move on, And so that's always, that's always the fight when you're shooting a movie.
Oh, cool.
So let's talk about some of the inspiration behind the film. I know I'm a big fan of like ghost hunting shows and these paranormal TV, and I saw some of that in there. What were some of your influences for the story?
I love the ghost hunting shows too. That certainly is an influence for me. You know, I haven't edited any of them. I have cut sizzle tapes for them before, and I am keenly familiar with the way that they're made and like how it's all done in the editing. But you know, I think more of my influence really comes from just my love of movies in general and horror films specifically. You know, I was always when I made this movie, I set out to make a movie that I would want to see. You know, it was very important to make a movie that sort of does the things that I feel like we're missing in movies today. And I think I accomplished that. But my inspiration was, you know, there are a handful of exorcism movies that I think are really good. The Exorcist sort of sets the bar. Exorcism of Emily Rose is phenomenal. The Last Exorcism is actually a big influence too, because it has some similarity to The Cleansing Hour in terms of, you know, the idea of somebody who's faking an exorcism. These are movies, and Scott Derrickson's work just in general as a director, and James Wan are all very influential for me. You know, they're sort of like the bar that I hope to reach at some point. You know, then as far as like the concept for The Cleansing Hour is concerned, you know, my experience in reality TV has taught me that, you know, people really don't understand the way that this kind of entertainment is created. And my own mother-in-law, she swears, she was blown away when I said, you know, that every line in Duck Dynasty is actually written. They have a staff of writers who are writing. It's what's called a hard scripted show. And, you know, there are soft scripted shows where they, you know, go on to set with an outline and, you know, they know what they're going to shoot, but they let the talent sort of ad-lib it. You know, kind of like the way that, you know, Curb Your Enthusiasm is written is almost like a soft scripted show. And people don't understand that, you know, the power of editing and the way that you can manipulate a story just with, you know, cutting the camera. So I guess that was a big influence. And then also just seeing like, you know, like the World Star videos that go online, and, you know, they're sort of low quality, crappy cell phone footage. And it just has sort of like this grittiness and this sense of realism because it's lower quality, you know, it must be real. And how do you fake something like that? And so it was just sort of like combining that love for exorcism horror with my, you know, career in fooling people, making bad reality TV. You know, those two things together, just sort of, that's how the story germinated.
That's cool. Yeah, and you actually get that from that. You know, there's a lot of like, you know, the wink, wink, nod, nod about the reality show thing in there, and it definitely came across really well.
Thanks.
So actually, with this movie too has a lot of course it's like gets to really like intense sequences, but there's also some lighthearted sequences. So I think the cast is really important, and you had a phenomenal cast, I thought, for this, especially I think Alex Angelis, who played Lane. She was absolutely phenomenal in that. So how much were you involved in that casting process, and how did you feel it came out based on from your vision from the script to the final product?
I was really involved in casting from beginning to end. I feel very fortunate to have gotten the cast that I did. It's such an eye-opener whenever you work with talented actors and you see how they can bring another dimension to the words that are on the page. They can do something for your story that's intangible, that you can't imagine. Alex in particular is a great example because there are things that were in the script that, you know, when I'm writing it, I hear myself like, this is how I would perform this. Okay. We had over 3,000 submissions for this role, for the possessed girl.
Oh, wow.
You know, cause it's like an actor's role, you know, like there's something they can really sink their teeth into. And my casting director, you know, is the one who had the grueling job of whittling it all down. And she sent me Alex's tape, and I was watching it with my producer wife, and I saw it and I was like, this is it, this one right here, like this is exactly it, like look at this. And I showed it to her, and my wife cringed watching it because it was so like creepy. And then after that point, I was comparing every tape to Alex. It was like, not as good as Alex, not as good as Alex, not as good as Alex. And so Alex was a really easy decision to make, and she just was so phenomenal. It was like she took what I had in my head and then she just made it bloom into this amazing performance. And she was just so in it. She just like transformed. It was amazing to watch. It's so much fun to watch what actors do, what good actors do, because, you know, they camera rolls, and then they're on, and then camera cuts, and then it's just, oh, hey, how you doing? We're just talking like normal, you know. And it's especially funny when she's got, you know, like all this makeup on her face and, you know, blood running down. And then with Kyle and Ryan, I felt particularly fortunate to work with actors like them who've been, you know, doing this for so long. Kyle especially, who has a long horror film pedigree and has been, you know, he's very well known in the horror community as being like sort of like the star horror actor. I learned a lot from Kyle just watching his performance and working with him. And then Ryan, whose work I wasn't as familiar with, also blew me away. The interesting thing about these three actors is that I don't know that any two actors have the same way of working. And as a director, you know, you put a lot of faith in your actors that they're going to, you know, show up and be ready on the day. And, you know, I didn't know Alex, Kyle, and Ryan before I made this movie. And they all did it. You know, they showed up and like, boom, they were ready to go. And I truly couldn't have made this movie without them, with any other actor, I think, because we were on such a tight schedule. We didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of takes. And it's the actors who perform and nail it, who allow the production to move forward, and they did that. And you know, look, it shows. It really turned out.
Yeah,
nice.
No, I agree, because you know, so many horror films could lose its audience if if you're trying to sell something genuinely scary and then the performance doesn't come across. And yeah, I mean, this cast was really, really good. I think it really worked out well.
Yeah, thank you. I think also, you know, and also the supporting cast, I was very, very happy with. You know, we shot the movie in Romania, and we flew Kyle, Alex, and Ryan in, but everybody else either came from Romania or from the UK. Chris, Luke Kamhoy, and Daniel came in from the UK, and they're both phenomenal actors, just so insanely talented. And you know, the UK is it has some wonderful actors in the UK, and Romania had some great actors too. So we really lucked out. There's so much luck in this stuff. Like, you just never know what's gonna.
So I wanted to go back to an earlier question when we were talking about your influences, and I think you kind of alluded to this. Were there specific things that you were trying to do with this movie that you did not see in previous exorcism, demonic possession type movies that you wanted to portray?
I think one of the things that I was really trying to portray was characters that we care about. I think the best movies are the ones, or the best horror films especially, are the ones where you really do care about the characters. They have to be character driven. And, you know, it was important for me to really spend time in the first act setting up these people so that you have a good sense for who they are and like what their background is and what do they want. You know, care before you scare is sort of my adage when making a horror film. So that was a big part of it. The other part was, you know, to do a movie like this that's set in one room, and there are a lot of really great movies that are set in one room, but I think what makes those movies work really well is constant tension. And, you know, one of the most common feedback that we got from people from when we tested it through, you know, screening the final version was that people said that, like, it made them anxious. It made them extremely anxious. And that's the best compliment that you could give me on this movie, because we really don't give you a whole lot of time to relax. So that was definitely one of the goals.
Yeah, that's funny too. So I don't know if this is just I'm have a good foresight to the order of these questions, or you're in our head. But the next thing actually is about this. The question I have is about the location. So because the location is really cool, and it's like you said, you know, it does bring tension in itself along with what's going on. So how did you what you tell us about the process in defining that great set like that?
We filmed it on a stage in Romania. My production designer, Lauren Slatton, did a phenomenal job of creating this space where we imagined that these guys would try and make their little webcast. And that was, the process was sort of determining what is the story behind this building. Because, you know, we looked at a bunch of other really cool warehouses where we could have filmed this, practical locations. And for one reason or another, they didn't work out. So it just made more sense to build it. And Lauren just did a great job of sort of crafting this story behind the room and building around that. And, like half, the roof is caved in on one end, and there are like stacks of old papers. Like we made up a whole backstory about, this was a factory where they were making newspapers and storing, papers and sort of thing like that. And it burned down. And so everything, the walls are charred and everything. So once that story was sort of developed, Lauren went and did her thing, and that's how it all got built. And then for we built a functioning studio set within there. So we had live cameras that were plugged into a switcher that you could actually switch the cameras, and you can see in the movie how Drew switches the cameras. That's all being done live. So we use these Blackmagic cameras, which are really cool, a bunch of Blackmagic gear. And just coincidentally, that's the name for, in a demon possession movie. We're using Blackmagic camera.
Yeah.
And then, like the sort of like 3-wall set, so like a traditional 3-wall set, is like, this is where they'll just these characters are just going to redress this set every time they do a new show. So that's the basics of how it came about. And then we had a couple external locations that we did in Romania, but then we also had 2 days for exteriors in LA too, that we played for different parts of the world with the spectators watching.
Cool.
So, Damien, I always like to give our guests an opportunity to tell us a little behind-the-scenes type stories. Anything funny or interesting or challenging that happened on set?
Oh, let me think about that. Every day had its own challenge. One of the things that was interesting about this is because we shot the principal when the cleansing hour show starts about 20 minutes into the movie, like when the show begins. From there until the end of the movie is sort of one scene. It's almost like one continuous scene. That was all shot in 9 days, which is insanely fast if you think about it. And this was a logistical almost nightmare, very, very challenging, because every day there was some form of stunt, pyrotechnics, special makeup effects, and Alex's makeup, which toward the end of that 9 days, she was in makeup for 2.5, 3 hours a day. So we had to, that made shooting coverage very difficult, because if you think about it, traditionally you would shoot, a wide establishing, and then you would go in and shoot coverage, right? Well, you can't shoot that wide establishing first whenever your lead actress is in the makeup chair. So oftentimes we were shooting Kyle or Ryan with nobody in front of them, because Alex was in makeup. So finally, when we were able to get like a wide establishing, and they were like, oh God, this is so much easier now because we have something to act, play off of. That was a real challenge for Kyle. It's a challenge for any actor to have to, perform to nothing. So that was a real serious challenge. And then we had, I don't want to give away the ending, so I won't talk.
Yeah, because this is I don't want you to spoil it.
No spoilers.
Sure, yeah.
But we, the entire set also had to be pre-rigged for every stunt. So like there are a number of stunts where people are flying up in the air. People fly through the air in various parts of the movie. Before all of that had to be choreographed and set up before we began rolling on day one. So the stunt team, which was phenomenal, the stunt team in Bucharest was really, really good. These guys had pre-rigged pulleys all over the set, because we had on our floor plan had figured out, okay, we're going to do this stunt here, we're going to do this stunt here, and we know in this stunt someone's going to be flipped over a shoulder. This stunt Drew's going to be lifted up at his desk by cables, and all of those cables were pre-rigged around the set, and they had a giant counterweight that's hidden right in the middle of the set. You'd never know it was there, but it was a giant counterweight that was used for all the cables that were used for all of those stunts all around the set. So it was so many moving parts. It's amazing that we pulled it off in such a short amount of time, but that's due in large part to the amazing crew that we had.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
So here's another kind of fun question we like to usually ask. So with so many horror movies out there to choose from, especially on Shudder, like how do you feel this movie stands out? And what kind of quick pitch would you give someone on why to watch this movie?
I would watch this one because I personally think that exorcism movies are a dime a dozen, but this one is the exception. I set out to break that. I set out to make something that stands out from all of the other exorcism movies out there that will just make you roll your eyes. I'm really trying to do something different here. And that's, I think, maybe the best selling point. If you want to see a different exorcism movie, one that with a social commentary, and one that also is very tongue in cheek and a lot of fun at the same time as at the same time as being scary, this is one for you.
That's actually perfect to say that, because I think I told Tim I started to watch it, and when I was watching, I said, "Oh, is this just another exorcism movie?" And then all of a sudden, it just like just took off. And I texted Tim. I'm like, "Tim, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this, because like you're gonna think it's just another exorcism movie by this, like in the first couple of minutes, and then it just is like it takes off to a new level." I'm like, the ending's gonna blow you away. I'm not gonna say what for the listeners that haven't seen it yet, but I'm like, you're gonna like. And I remember I was like, I was blown away by the end of this movie, and I was like, holy cow! I said, that's exactly what I tell people myself. If I said, "Oh, you got to see this," I'm like, don't think it's just another exorcism movie, because it's not.
Well, I'm glad it resonated with you. I'm very proud of how it turned out. And I hope that once it comes out on Shudder that everybody reacts the same way.
Oh yeah, I think the horror community is going to love this, and I think the Shudder provides such a good platform, and so I think that so many, like, I don't know another it's a gift to the horror community, Shudder, I think, and so I love when movies come on there, because I get to see so many things I may never got to see.
Yeah, I love Shudder. It's been great for me. I'm expanding my knowledge of horror movies from everything they have on there, and it's really the best home for Cleansing Hour. We couldn't have asked for a better platform.
So, Damian, before we let you go, I'd like to give you a chance to promote any social media you want to give out, and tell our listeners where they're going to be able to see the movie, how they're going to be able to see it, that kind of thing.
Totally. I would please, you can hit me up anytime. If anybody wants to message me on Twitter, I'm at Damien Leveck. That's DAMIEN Leveck. That's at Damian Leveck on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not on there a whole lot, but I do check it. And please send your love and hate that way. We are out on Shudder on October 8th, which you can get as a subscription under Amazon Prime or directly through Shudder for $5 a month. First month is free. And if you want to wait, we will be out on DVD and Blu-ray in January.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Well, I will definitely be adding this to my collection. Tim has jokes with me because I have such an expansive Blu-ray collection, and it's behind my couch. So whenever we're doing like normal Zooms, it's just a wall of Blu-ray. So Tim goes, "I love how you're standing in front of your Blu-ray monolith." So that's what we nicknamed. So this is, I already have decided that as soon as this one comes out, this will be entering my monolith for sure.
I like Blu-ray quite a lot. I understand why it's, people don't, because streaming is just easier in a lot of ways. But, the compression on Blu-ray is so much less than it is on anything that you stream. And you're going to get much better quality if you watch it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I'm always a physical. Tim and I are both kind of like physical media guys. I'm like, we'll stream stuff. It's great when it's easy, but I will have a hard time ever 100% going over to pure digital. I like to have the physical. I like the box art. I do too. See, if they could find a way to totally replicate still you having the box art, but I mean, I guess that's what they kind of do with the digital code. You get the best of both worlds, really. So that's kind of
special features too is what's really missing from the streaming a lot of times. That's what I
did. That's a great point. Actually, there's going to be a director and producer commentary on the Blu-ray for Cleansing Hour. So I'm really excited about that. The thing that was fun about that for me is that I get to just sort of walk through things that were going on set the entire time, the stuff that you don't normally hear about in articles and other interviews with me. So definitely get it for that reason.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much for coming by, and I hope you know that you're welcome on anytime you have something else you want to promote. We'd have you on in a heartbeat. It was great talking with you and learning so much about a movie that we really liked.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, guys. And I subscribe to your podcast, and I really like it so far. So you guys are doing something awesome. I love the horror podcast and all the horror fans out there. And I learned something from everybody because they all have a different perspective. So it's really fun what you guys are doing, and keep it up. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Take care, guys.
All right.
Take care.
All right, Brian. So we are back, and again, sound like I'm a broken record at this point, how much we've enjoyed our interviews, but we just get lucky with these fantastic creators of these movies that we really like. And, knock on wood, every interview we've done, I feel like I've really enjoyed talking to these people and have learned so much of the movie making process when sitting down and kind of and talking with them. So that's like an added bonus. I mean, just the fact that you get to meet these people and just have a friendly conversation with, especially in quarantine where you don't have that social aspect. Yeah. You get to talk to some really nice people and meet some really nice people. But then on top of it, you're learning stuff about the filmmaking process, horror filmmaking process. On top of it is just a huge bonus.
Agreed.
All right, well, let's get to our beer pairing for the cleansing hour. I can't wait to hear what you came up with for this one.
Yes, so I came up with Brunch Exorcism.
That's pretty good.
It's by Clown Shoes. It's a decent brewery. I had a couple of things from there that I liked. It's from Boston, Massachusetts, and it's 10.25%. So here's the ingredients. It's got cold brew coffee, oat, dark crystal. I don't know if that's got Skeksis in there too, but chocolate. Chocolate. I'm very disappointed, by the way. We only had one season of that, but chocolate and black malts, nugget, Mount Hood, and Sterling hops. So there's a lot of stuff in this. There's a
lot going on there.
Yeah. So I guess maybe it's like an all-you-can-eat breakfast brunch exorcism. Then and so here's the description though. It says Fitz is a festival maker. Here at our home at 306 Northern Avenue, when the tents begin to rise, you never want to interfere with his work. A brunch-obsessed demon didn't get the memo. He hurled giant bagels, caffeinated beverages, and strips of cooked meats at the brewery. Fitz, barely phased, exorcised the brute. Now no longer a demon, the meek soul cleaned up his mess before descending back to hell. Brunch Exorcism is aged in bourbon, Irish whiskey, and maple bourbon barrels. Cold brew, applewood, and beechwood smoked malts round out the flavor profile, delivering a demon-free brunch in a glass.
Oh,
boy, that might be one of my favorite descriptions I've ever read for
that's
one
great.
of these beer things.
That sounds like you could eat that beer with a fork. I mean,
It does. I mean, it also sounds like it would like it could be what John Lithgow would smell like in Pet Sematary, right? I mean, it's close to it, but that's the tobacco.
Close, yeah.
Yeah, without the tobacco.
All right. Well, triple threat from last week. The one I created. My triple threat. I'm so excited. So this one
and
we
it
were
was
looking
solved
for.
in a day. I hate to say.
Oh, was it?
Someone got it.
Oh, yeah, well, then I'm glad.
Yes.
I'm glad.
It was Larry Jackson. He said he got it right away, and he actually gave the clues that gave it to him. So.
Oh, cool. Well, that's great.
No, but that's good though. So you gave, you did a good job because you gave clues that helped someone's poverty. He said the silver spoons and the werewolves are what gave it away. So
yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, the clues are supposed to give it away because you're supposed to be able to solve it, right? So,
right.
But I'm happy that somebody got it. I missed that message or email that we got. All right, so we were looking for an actor or actress, of course, and the answer was Jason Bateman. I thought this one might be a little tricky, and the only reason I came up with Jason Bateman, I was literally when Brian was talking to me about how he was not ready with his triple threat. I was scrolling past an article with Jason Bateman on it, and I was like, maybe I could find some clues for that guy. So I thought it was kind of cool because he's not a typical horror actor. But clue number one.
But he's a cool dude.
Yeah. He's a cool dude. Clue number one. While not known for horror movies, I once played a werewolf. Funnily enough, which that was my little clue there, that it was a comedy werewolf. Jason starred in 1987's sequel, Teen Wolf 2, which I did see in the theater. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God.
Clue number
so you're the one.
Yes, I'm the one person that paid money to see that. Clue number two. My career started out in little television roles. That was a hint at his role in Little House on the Prairie. Yeah. No one could accuse me of being born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Of course, that was probably a little bit too much of a giveaway, but Jason's early TV roles included Little House on the Prairie and Silver Spoons. Another one of my favorites. Oh, I love Silver Spoons.
Well, because everyone wanted that arcade that he had in the house and the train.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Clue number three. One of my more recent roles was in a highly acclaimed adaptation from the King of Horror. And of course, I'm talking about The Outsider. Jason starred in Stephen King's The Outsider, which is a phenomenal series if you guys have not watched that yet. All right, so this week we are looking for yet another actor or actress. But I think this one's a really good one, Brian. I like this one. Clue number one. Clue number one. I once starred as a character who appeared in 3 films, an animated series, action figures, and a theme park attraction. Clue number 2. While I have not done a great deal of horror movies, I was in one of the more popular fan favorites from the 80s. And clue number 3. My first film role was in a classic Charles Bronson vehicle.
Got to get the vehicle in there.
Yeah. So that's
I saw our buddy David McHugh used vehicle too, and like his when he was talking about his horror challenge choice. I love how we're spreading that. We're making sure that's constant in people's vernacular now.
Yes, I love it. All right. So speaking of David McHugh, who we hope is on his way to a speedy recovery, not feeling a little under the weather this week, but he has submitted yet another fantastic fan question that I was very excited to answer this one. This one it's a weird question, but that's the reason I liked it, because it really made me think. The question was, what is your favorite and least favorite surgery in a horror movie?
Yeah, so now, when I took this, I wasn't sure. Did he mean specific movie or did he mean type of surgery? I took it as type of surgery.
I took it as a specific surgery, so we can answer it both ways.
There you go.
So, I don't know. You want to go first, Brian?
Yeah, well, obviously for me, is like anything involving like shows like any kind of like surgery on the eyes, forget about it. I can't deal with it. So pretty much globally, any kind of movie that has like some kind of eye surgery element to it, and I'm like kind of drawing a blank on one right now. I mean, I guess there was the eye, and it actually, even in VHS, the second VHS movie, just the thought of that the guy got the eye surgery, and because they had to put a fake eye in his, just the thought of it is enough to get it grossed out to me.
So I take it you haven't seen that classic, what is it? Chin Andalou or whatever.
No, I've seen it with the razor blade.
Eye, yeah, we had to watch that.
I don't know if that counts, but if that counts, yeah, there you go. That's probably what started it. No, but I'd say my favorite type are when they of course do like kind of like a surgery where they kind of like put other parts on people, like where they use like like they do kind of thing like what was it, Rabid, the one, the Soul Sisters version, American Mary, of course, I love that one. We both loved that one, I think, right?
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. What was that other one I saw? Patchwork. I saw that for the horror challenge one year too, where they basically had to piece together this girl, stuff like that. So those are the kind of like when they kind of Frankenstein someone together, kind of thing. I guess maybe because I like that whole genre. But so anything, my least favorite is going to pretty much anything to do with something with an eyeball. It's funny, I could take any kind of gore. You could like start pulling guts out like right in front of me. I'm fine, but when that eyeball comes out, forget it. I'm done. I'm out. I'm out the door.
Well, I have an all-time favorite surgery scene in a horror movie, and that is in Eyes Without a Face. Have you ever seen that one, Brian?
Is that the one where they mush the person's face?
Or
am I thinking of a different movie where they like literally like someone has like they almost look like clay and they kind of mush them in? Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie.
This one's from 1960, so I don't know if the movie you're thinking of is that old, but black and white.
It was black and white, the one I'm talking about, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's. Maybe I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but this surgery definitely stands out in my mind. But it's about a surgeon which causes an accident, and this is from the IMDb description, which leaves his daughter disfigured, and he goes to extremes to give her a new face. And there's a sequence in the movie where he does surgery on her face, and they show it in excruciating detail. And let me tell you, for a 1960 film, this is one of the most realistic and graphic depictions of a surgery I've seen in a horror movie. It's really, really well done. And when I first saw this movie, I wasn't really. I'd heard of it before, but I'd not really particularly heard of that particular scene. And when I saw it, I was just completely blown away. You have to go see that sequence. And this movie is actually on HBO Max right now, so you have no excuse.
Oh, I'm gonna go watch it. Yeah, no, I haven't seen this. Now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, go watch it because that scene is absolutely incredible. I think I'm gonna actually just go fast forward to that scene after we get off this podcast because I want to see it again. But it's really, really well done. Probably one of my least favorite surgeries, and you're gonna laugh at this, is Human Centipede 3.
Oh. Yeah, actually, you know what? I meant to bring that up. Yeah, I don't like those Human Centipede ones. That just I watched the first one. I don't even know if I saw the second or third one.
I liked the first one. I actually liked the first Human Centipede. I thought it was well done. It was shocking and crazy, but it
had Dieter Laser in it.
Yeah, but it was entertaining and it was good. But the sequel, I did not care for Human Centipede 2. I did not like the meta aspect of it. I thought it was grungy and dirty. I just didn't like it. And then 3 was just like a complete farce. I just hated 3. I didn't like it at all. So
the full sequence.
Yeah, in my opinion, that one was just garbage. So that's why I'll just put that one as my least favorite surgery. I like the concept of the Human Centipede surgery. I think that's a very clever concept. Completely disgusting, but pretty clever. But by the time they got to 3, I was just completely turned off. So that's my least favorite. So good question. I like that one.
Well, would you consider the Reanimator ones that, right? I would kind of.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of favorites, like movies too, that would be up there, of course. But also, I guess another favorite scene. If you want to count this as surgery, I don't know if you can, but like, of course, the iconic scene in The Thing where goes with the paddles.
Yeah, definitely.
That's got to be one of the most probably shown scenes, in like horror clips that people probably don't even, and I bet you there's so many people that don't even know what it's from, which is what's scary. But
yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, you should actually watch the Soska Sisters rabid version of it. That's really, Laura Vandervoort is fantastic in it.
Yeah, that one's on my list to see for sure. Oh, I did want to mention before we leave. I meant to mention in the first chop was that we there was a big Arrow sale that Cone told us about, and my wallet's not happy, but I am happy because I'm getting the Paul Naschy Volume 2 box set, and I've got the Fly Collection box set on the way.
Oh, you mean the Shout Factory one, right?
I'm sorry, Shout Factory, yes.
Yeah, Arrow's this today, but yeah, yes. Shout Factory's the one I bought all the stuff on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Monolith made an error, by the way. I'm trying to get one canceled. Apparently, I ordered Firestarter, and I had it. Even though for some reason when I looked it up, it didn't show up in my movie app. So then I got it, and then I was looking for something else the other day, and I saw it sitting there. I'm like, what? And I must have just made a typo and typed it in too fast when I looked. So yeah, but I contacted them, and they said they might be able to cancel just that line off.
Oh, nice.
The order, because I bought a bunch of other stuff in there. Like I had to buy that. The Burning at like $11.
Yeah,
collector's edition. I'm dying for that movie, so I'm glad. I know it's on Shudder now, but I love that.
No, it's not. They took it off. That's why I'm kicking myself. Yep. I took it off. I went to watch it today, and they took it off.
Really?
Yep. So I was kicking myself for not getting the Blu-ray, because I was like, oh well, I could just watch it on Shudder.
The sale is still going, I think.
Yeah, so I might have to pick it up now. But I went to go watch it.
Yeah, of course you got to hit $50 though to get the shipping again, but. Yeah. You might be able to get, maybe you can get Cone to go in with you. I think he was looking for some stuff.
Yeah, so I was very disappointed because it was on my...
Oh my God, that's crazy. They took it off right after that. Oh, I'm glad I ordered it then, because I was like, I had watched it when it came back to Shudder, when it first came back on Shudder, and I hadn't seen it in years, so I was kind of glad that was on there. And I also got the Silent Night, Deadly Night, even though they just announced today like a new version of Silent Night 1 and 2, but the Shout Factory ones are the best if you can get a hold on it. And I also finally completed my I ordered my Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation, which will complete my Texas Chainsaw set on Blu-ray. But thanks. That was like a dangerous sale. And now what the problem is like the Monolith just like I don't tell it what to order. I think it tells me what to order now. So I literally think it starts ordering by itself.
I think so. But yeah, that was one of the best Shout Factory sales I've seen in a long time. All right, guys. Well, we will see you back here next week, and we got another special surprise interview coming up this week. So,
I can't wait. I'm very excited for this one.
Yeah,
this one I think will be really fun. It's different this time because we're kind of pairing it with a movie, not per se the movie that they're in. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, guys. So we'll see you back here next week. Take care and don't get possessed by demons.